evening and welcome. This is the Unity Connection. Well, Unity Connection is on every Monday night at 8:30 here on DCTV, and we're sponsored by the Unity Temple in Capitol Hill. The Unity Temple is located at 1555 Race Street, and that's at Race and Colfax. And we'd like to thank you for tuning in tonight. As I said last week, I was going to have a special guest tonight, and before I introduce this guest, I would like to give you a little background. This particular person was the first person to ever take me to church, and this was the person who introduced me to Unity, and this was my very, very first teacher in life, and this was one of those, what we're going to talk about tonight, one of those New Thought pioneers, the people who were out there in the front wave of what we're all taking for granted in our lives today. And so if you would, I'd like you to join me in welcoming my mother, Dema Bailey. Mom, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Well, all through my life, I mean, you know, I take a lot of things for granted right now that happen in my life, such as the way I think and the ideas I entertain, and a lot of the guiltlessness that I feel about my life. In other words, there's a lot of areas in my life where I don't feel that guilty for whatever it is, but I do know other people, because of the way they were raised, would feel extremely guilty for the same thing. And I'm not talking about radical things. I'm talking minor things like, you know, wearing jewelry or just all kinds of stuff, makeup, and all those things. And I remember,
cutting your hair.
You were born and raised Pentecostal, is that right? And so there was a time when I was a small child that you left the Pentecostal and went into the Unity movement, and this was, I think I was like 3 or 4 years old, barely 3, somewhere around in there. And I know that you had a strong love for spiritual things. You had a strong love for the Bible. You had a strong love for your church, but there was a disagreement at church, wasn't there? And didn't you get kind of asked to leave?
Yeah, I kind of got de-churched.
And the reason I'm bringing this up, and I'm going to let you talk, is that there's so many people out there who've been kicked out of church, excommunicated, all kinds of things that they're going to relate to your story so well, because those in your age group had to go through that so strongly. So it's back. I'm a little boy. We haven't left the Pentecostal church yet. What happened?
Well, I really started into studying different truths, like authors, Mary Baker Eddy.
Now, Mary Baker Eddy, that's the Christian Science, right?
Goldsmith, Thor, just all different types of readings at this particular time, because there was such a firm, strict way that they taught us, and I didn't think that was the truth, because even though at that time, you know, all they wanted you to read was just the Bible, and if you read anything different, they considered it a sin. In fact, you know, you don't vary from anything except the Bible. And so I had read and studied so much in the Bible, and I thought, this isn't freedom, you know. It's because the truth would set you free. And I didn't feel that they knew what freedom was in the respect of trying to give people freedom. It was just such a strict feeling, and I would try and ask these questions and talk with the pastor. And then at one particular time, you know, I was telling him how that I felt that we were gods, we were extension of the main Spirit, and he was saying, yes, that's right, but if I told my congregation that, he said, I'd lose all my good praying saints. And I said, oh no, if it's of the Lord and if this is truth, they would appreciate it being given to them, you know. So at this particular time then, I'd felt like that what it wasn't what was important on the outside, it was the feeling that we was expressing and living that came from the inside of us, how we felt about our fellow men, how we raised our children, and the things that that meant most to all concerned, not just that church or the church. And so then when I started saying it's not necessary that we carry this to the extent of you don't cut your hair, you don't wear makeup, you don't you have to wear long sleeves. See, the real strict Pentecostal people didn't want you even wearing short sleeves. You don't wear pants, not anything that's flashy. They didn't like for you to wear anything, any kind of jewelry. This was part of the Pentecostal that I was brought up in.
Right, it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it's changed a
But
great
it would
lot.
have never changed without the people like you who were saying, no, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it differently. And I've seen in the Pentecostal movement and most of the strict Protestant movements, the Southern Baptists, a lot more leniency coming about. And I can remember growing up, and like the Pentecostals wouldn't let the ladies cut their hair or wear makeup or wear anything but no pants. But then I noticed how the Assembly of God, which was kind of akin to the Pentecost, they were much more lenient, and the ladies were allowed to cut their hair. And and what I've noticed is from the work like people like you have done, the searching and everything, and the being willing to step out of that limited idea into something else, that you literally pave the way. And nowadays you'll see churches everywhere allowing a lot more spiritual freedom as a result. So I mean, your efforts paid off. But I want to get back to that time, because the reason this is so important is we take for granted our religious freedoms. And even though this country has always said we give religious freedoms, the thing about it is our religions themselves don't give any freedom. So at this particular point in my mother's life, she was she had left the Pentecostal church. Basically, the minister said that
There's the door.
There's the door.
He said, this person that keeps talking and giving everyone this information isn't welcome here anymore. And I thought, there's nobody here that's doing it except me, and I've been giving it to you, because he seemed to be receiving and accepting what I was talking about. So I thought, he's talking to me. He's telling me there's the door, And of course, I was brokenhearted because I'd put so much feelings and faith in being able to talk with him, and that he understood what I was saying. And it was such a revelation to me that it was like coming from the dark into a lighted room. And when he said this, that was on a Sunday morning, and so I went home, and when you don't have anyone to talk to except Billy, my oldest daughter, and bless her heart, she, I'd try to discuss it with her, and she was good, because at this particular time she had been studying religion, even though she was just in the 8th grade and 9th. That's one of her things that she had been studying. And so I thought, and I tried to talk with my husband, but he wasn't interested. And so then I tried to, so I thought, well, should I go back to church? Because I'm not ashamed of what I think and how I feel about things. My main concern is that I want you to know that this is the way I feel life should be. And so then I went back that night. And of course, all of the people came around and, said how glad they were I was here. And I said, it's not any more than any other night that I'm here. This is, I just came back to let you know that my feelings are still the same. And when he said, whomever it is that's talking and giving you this information, there's the door. I said, it's true, there is the door, and I will be going out of it. And I did go out, and I never went back again. But I did go to a revival that he'd had there in Memphis, and he apologized.
This was much later, right?
Yeah. There was about 1,000 people there, and he apologized and told the crowd that he wanted them to understand and to realize that he had made a mistake, and he felt that he would not be in the condition he was in at that particular time had he have done and gone along with my way of thinking.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so you've left the Pentecostal, and what did you do? I mean, did you